Hello everyone and welcome to another News Coolum video. In this video I'm showcasing one of my regular 500-mile trips. It's about 480 to 490 depending on what route I take. But I've tracked most of these trips and I'm just now compiling and editing them together into single videos. This one in particular is interesting because uh, I was able to maintain about a 50 mile per hour average trip speed using the current fast charging infrastructure in California. And the reason this is of note is it's not really that difficult for me to maintain between 9.5 to 10 hours average trip time for this trip. But in this case, this is the northbound. And that's what makes this a little bit more impressive because by the time I headed north, I was entering about 30-degree Fahrenheit weather, so it was much colder. And on top of that, it's a net 1,000 feet elevation increase. So the southbound trip is a net 1,500 foot elevation decrease. So it makes sense that that one is faster. So I'll walk you through the different aspects of the video, charging stops. I've sped up some of the driving. There's really no way to include all of the driving just because you're on the road for over 8 hours. I'll call out things of note and explain certain concepts I think that are important for the community to know. And if you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps out. Hello everyone. So it's time for another trip up north. I'll probably be leaving in another 5 minutes or so, but I'm expecting the drive to take at least 10 to 11 hours. I might have to contend with a holiday traffic, but as you can see, it's fairly warm in Southern California right now, but I think part of that's just because the car was sitting out in the sun. So it should be down into the 50s for I would say most of the trip. So we'll see how it goes. Back to pretty much normal estimated mileage here of 237 miles estimated. So I'm gonna go ahead and just clean off my windows and head out. So hopefully by about 3:15. If memory serves, it was actually closer to about 3:20 by the time I had headed out. It was all within that ballpark. Now, I'm just sort of speeding up, showing the more interesting driving, and I know some people have complained about just the sped up sequences, and I think part of it is they were wanting to hear sort of my commentary about the drive, and so I'm hoping this is sort of the best compromise because a lot of people just don't have the patience to sit through normal speed video. Now, I take this back route getting out because it's far faster. I'm getting onto Interstate 5 now, merging on. And what this back route allows me to do is get out ahead of the surge of traffic coming from LA and Southern California. So I think a lot of people who leave from Southern California, uh, if they're going I-5 the entire way, they get caught up in a lot of traffic coming out of the LA basin and heading north. Now, we're heading up the Tehachapi's, and it's a fairly significant grade. Uh, and, I think a lot of people have the misconception that electric vehicles don't like elevation increases, and that's actually completely the opposite of what's true. So, and you'll notice right now I'm passing a lot of these vehicles because, a lot of them just struggle to get up a significant grade. And you'll notice as the grade levels out, most of them start passing me again. It's just mostly it's because internal combustion vehicles don't really have anything to do with the extra energy of going downhill. And so, other than just burning off their brake pads, but electric vehicles sort of benefit because all of that extra energy that they put in going up the elevation increase, they get a portion of that coming back. So not only do they ride back down the other side of the hill for free, they actually recoup range. And so we're coming to the actual last summit here. It's only about 4,100 feet, but for some people that's a pretty high elevation increase. It levels off for a little bit, but I cut over here to where we actually finally start
making a decent descent, and you'll notice just how much the regeneration goes up. And yeah, you actually recoup a lot of range. And if you look at the range estimator on the left-hand side, I don't actually really pay attention to its estimates until the terrain sort of levels out again, because you're going to be misled by recent efficiency. And as we get to the base of the mountain here, it's up to 70-mile-an-hour road, so you just speed up to get up to the speed of traffic. And this is where you sort of deviate from Tesla owners. If you're driving an electric vehicle that relies on the public charging infrastructure, you're going to need to take Highway 99. Tesla didn't really build out their infrastructure very much on Highway 99 like they did on I-5, but the opposite is true for electric vehicles that rely on the public charging infrastructure. And the thing I want to note though here is a lot of people give Highway 99 a bad name, but in my experience, it's easier to maintain faster trip speeds. See, right now we have 3 lanes of traffic, so it's really difficult for two semis to gum up the entire freeway, where that's the case for most of Interstate 5. So it's very easy to get stuck behind semis for miles and miles and miles that are only doing about 60 to 65 miles an hour. Now, Highway 99 doesn't really have that, and in my experience, you maintain higher speeds more consistently than you do on Interstate 5.
Okay, well, we made it. As you can see, the temperature sort of dropped a little bit down to 50 degrees. It really didn't affect too much. We still have 7 kilowatt hours left in the battery, but you can see, pretty stable efficiency for the last 50 miles. So, anyway, I don't want to waste too much time here. Get to charging pretty soon, but yeah, just under 199 miles, and we should be down to about 10% battery. I haven't actually. Interesting. I haven't swiped my card yet. I wonder if this is like a free holiday promotion from EVgo. If so, that's very kind of you. Oh, sweet. So yeah, I didn't even swipe my card. Now, this does make me wonder if I want to just go ahead and grab dinner then, because I might be staying for about 45 minutes, long enough to get up to about 65% state of charge, I think, at a minimum. So yeah, we're already charging at 42 kilowatt. That's pretty standard for about 10% state of charge. So anyway, yeah, I don't think I'm going to wait too much longer. Then I'm just going to go in and maybe grab some dinner. Now, you might have heard me reference earlier that I thought it might take up to 11 hours. Part of that was because I was planning on actually heading over to the EVgo charger in Fremont, but I had never received word back from EVgo about whether they were going to be able to open it. And at nighttime, there's no real chance to actually film the charger and get the information or just the footage that I wanted. In this case, it also turned out to just be fairly nice because it looked like they activated the charge without charging my account. So I just went ahead and stayed for the full dinner, and I think the charge ended up being about 50 to 55 minutes, which gave me more than enough to make it up to Modesto, which was going to be my next stop anyway. I'm going to go ahead and end this session because I think what I'm going to do is, rather than stay charging for another 10-15 minutes here, I'm just going to head up, and I think I'm going to stop in Salida, um, north of Modesto, and then from there I'll head out and stop at Galt, which from there I'll need to probably be up to at least 70% state of charge. So I'm going to be charging. I'm not really wasting time right now, but the reason I want to add that extra is because I know what I'm driving into is probably going to be about 30-degree weather, and elevation change and freeway speeds, and the wind should kick up a little bit, but it's only a headwind of like 3 or 4 miles an hour, so nothing that major. But it's just I want to be able to drive quickly and not have to slow down. So I'm going to like I said, just go ahead and drive on to Salida, north of Modesto, I think, and then I'll and then from there I'll head on to Galt. So I'll be stopping in both places anyway, but I definitely won't be stopping for more than up to 55% state of charge in Salida. So, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and end the charge. It's probably not a even number, up to 69%. So 55 minutes and 54 seconds for 38.41 kilowatt hours delivered. So just under, I think, or just right around a 40 kilowatt rate.
Now, this stop in Selma isn't necessarily the best stop when you're going northbound. You'll see as I pull around, getting back on the freeway is actually fine. You're just off the freeway on ramp. Uh, but to actually get here, exiting the freeway when you're northbound, it either requires making multiple left turns at lights or having to drive through the back roads of the city, which is usually what I end up doing. But if you're going southbound, this is actually a super fast stop because it's immediately off the exit. You make one right turn, one left turn, and you're into the parking lot. Here, and you notice I'm getting right back onto the freeway now heading north. It's actually pretty straightforward when you're getting back onto the freeway. So overall, it's a really nice stop. I like how it's positioned relative to the freeway, and you get in and out fairly quickly, unless, like I said, you're going northbound, which probably adds a couple minutes to your trip. And again, you see, just getting straight back up to freeway speeds. It's dark. There's not a whole lot to see. Occasionally you see me slow down to about 70 miles an hour. And that's because I think the posted speed limit is about 65. And that's one of the complaints a lot of people have about taking Highway 99 is it goes through a couple of city centers where your speed actually has to slow down. But believe it or not, it's actually not that big of a deal. It's really only Bakersfield and Fresno. And again, you have multiple lanes. And in fact, in those cities, it actually expands out to about 4 lanes of traffic or 5 lanes of traffic instead of only three. And but once you get up to speed again relatively quickly, it's really not like you've lost anything compared to Interstate 5. Um, and then the other thing is too, we're going to be heading up to the juncture where a lot of people, I think, talk about having a faster trip speed with Teslas, and the reason for that is I've noticed it's almost like a bias. I think it's because they're going to the South Bay, and you see here, here's where the turnoff would be, and the reason it's so bad going from Highway 99 is Highway 99 and Interstate 5 diverge. And so that's basically the point at which Highway 99 is the farthest it gets east. So it does add about 20 to 25 miles if you were to be heading to the South Bay area, like turning off right there. But it's still easily doable. You see, with my min estimator, I have 83 miles. I would have only been about 80 to 90 miles from Gilroy at that point. It would have been a very easy trip to make, maybe making a short stop in Gilroy to get to San Jose. Now I hit the low indicator.
We just arrived in Salida, so I'm going to go ahead and start the charge. We're down to low battery level again, but whatever, that's kind of what I planned. I wanted to be able to drive with the flow of traffic on 70-mile-an-hour freeway. So that's the cost of doing business. And just to note, this is a gas station that's out of the way, but just off the freeway. And, I've mentioned this before, but I really love this stop just because of how convenient it is. Of course, people shouldn't be doing that. CCS seems to get no love at this particular charging location. Actually, that was about the only thing I was worried about, is not hearing a click Well, I guess I didn't get a second activation for free. Oh well. But we should be again down to about 10 to 15% state of charge. But yeah, I love this place, and there are a couple more EVgo chargers just a few miles back, but they're at a mall, and yeah, 13%. They're at a mall, and there are so many people there, I couldn't even see the chargers as I was driving by. So there's no reason to stop at a place like that. So anyway, here we are. I'm only going to probably stay up to 55%. Let's see. And yep, still pretty much like clockwork. Right away charging at 42, 43 kilowatts, even though it's at a 10, 13%. So, all right. Now, I've mentioned this in another video, but one of the things that makes for the fastest trip speeds in the Bolt EV is making sure you're maximizing your battery usage. So, hitting low indicator before stopping for a DC fast charging session is actually a good sign. That you're starting off at about 42 kilowatts, and you'll usually be charging it up to 45 to 46 kilowatts by the end of your session. All right, so the charge session just ended at about 30 minutes like it normally does. Pretty close to 55, or yeah, pretty close to 55%. I'm going to go check on the charger. Well, I guess it claims 50%, so 22.37 kilowatt hours in 30 minutes and 5 seconds. So, but I'm not going to restart a new session. The charger that I need to go to is yeah, and don't just leave these on the ground if you can. There you go. The charger that I need to go to get up to about 70% in order to make it home is 40 miles away. So I don't need to charge any more than this. No need wasting time. So I'm just gonna start up and head out.
So while I do like this spot, this is one of the areas where I think it could be improved or a better implementation is possible, and that's getting back onto the freeway again. Regardless of whether it's northbound or southbound, you have to make a series of left turns, one of which is at a light. So, uh, and it doesn't necessarily turn very frequently, and that doesn't make for the best trip speeds. Um, Otherwise, though, I think it's a fairly ideal location just because of restaurants nearby. It's not in a city center. It's not like I had mentioned previously. We had passed by a couple that were at a fast chargers that were at the mall in Modesto, and keep in mind this is the week leading up to Christmas. There was no way a shopping center like that was going to be the best place to stop to get a fast charge if you're making a trip to see your family. And that's one of the reasons some of you might remember hearing me say I don't really like the idea of putting DC fast chargers for the purposes of travel at shopping centers. I think it doesn't necessarily serve anyone's needs, and it really doesn't even serve the needs of the business. A business like a shopping mall, shopping center, retail shopping center, they are typically much better served by level two chargers, unless the one exception to that I would say would be something like a grocery store or a very specific store that people go into and out of, but not a shopping plaza, definitely not a mall. Now, again, here we are back up to 70-mile-an-hour speeds, and we're already heading into the greater Sacramento area. And again, this is where people might say, oh, well, the Highway 99 is slower. But the thing is, the same speed restrictions are true on Interstate 5. So uh, at that point in the greater Sacramento area, there's really no difference between the speed you're allowed to travel on Highway 99 and the speed you're allowed to travel on Interstate 5. And now this is another one of my go-to spots. This is in Galt, just south of Sacramento. And now the thing is, I'm actually fairly high on my battery charge. So this session was just enough to top me up to get home.
Well, we made it to Galt, so just about 7 hours since we originally left. So it looks like the Selma will be the only free charge of the day, but we should actually still be relatively high. Um, I guess probably around 25 to 30%. Yeah, so just under 30%. So the question is, how long do I stay here? Not a whole lot going on. Um, Relatively quiet. Certainly not staying until 80%, or, well, I say that now, but the big issue is it's going to get colder, and we still got a while to go. So, already charging at 43 kilowatts. So, all right. So as I stated, this is a little bit high in the battery state of charge to my liking, and I've since found a spot that I actually prefer to stop at, which is the Green Lots charger at the Sacramento International Airport. It puts me about 40 miles closer to home, so I would start the charge at a lower rate. I'd be able to get away with only charging up to about 55 to 65%, even in really bad conditions. So that would actually improve my trip speed even more. Also, you notice that this charge session actually shut off, and I had to restart. So this is back when it was still a 30-minute cutoff. I'm down to only charging at 24 kilowatts, but more importantly, I wanted to get a few more minutes in charging because of I have 120 miles to go, and it's going to be, like I said, down probably into the 30s by the time I get near the end of my destination, and I have an elevation increase. So it looks like I'm not too far short of 80%. So I'm just going to go ahead and end the charge now. Should have been another about 10 minutes. Yeah, so it says I'm at 74%, so that's fine. So yeah, 9 minutes, 30 seconds, and just under 5 kilowatt hours delivered, 4.94 kilowatt hours. So, all right, well, and I can actually feel it getting a bit colder. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And if I can make it in the time that my map indicates, it means I'll have made this trip in about 9 hours and 30 minutes to 9 hours and 40 minutes, which is pretty fast for an almost 500-mile trip.
So as you can see, even being a average trip speed of 55 miles an hour, it's still really not all that impressive. There's still so much room for improvement, um, that even with the current infrastructure, there are a lot of opportunities. And here we're heading into Sacramento, and there is a turnoff that we have to make, to get onto Interstate 5, and this is really where Highway 99 and Interstate 5 meet again. And so for me, because I'm going past this junction, it only really adds about 10 miles to my total trip to take Highway 99 instead. And here we're heading through downtown Sacramento, and we're now on uh, Interstate 5. And as you can see, we're kind of passing through, and this is near where uh, that other charger would be at Sacramento International Airport. So it would actually allow me to make much faster trip speeds. But once we get onto I-5 outside of the cities through Woodland, it's back to over a 70 mile an hour freeway. And there's really not a whole lot going on here. Uh, I think I sort of splice in some footage of driving by. There is a 20 kilowatt charger here, the turnoff at Highway 20 to head up over to Santa Rosa from Interstate 5. So there are backups if you have a CCS vehicle. There's no CHAdeMO there, but there are some CCS throughout Northern California. And now I've cut away to, this is sort of the off freeway for me where the roads start to get a little bit more interesting, curves and changes in direction, and it's a much more interesting road to drive, and but it's also a bit slower, and there's a massive amount of elevation increase, and you notice I'm already down low, and this is where I have to make about a 1,500-foot climb before I come over a summit and then head back down. So I'm really comfortable with these roads because I've driven them since I've had a driver's license, so that was never really an issue for me. But yeah, you'll notice that my battery level is getting fairly low. And again, though, I don't really worry about it too much because I'm sort of in an area where I know and I know the distance. And when you're heading home, unlike a gasoline powered vehicle, you know that as long as you have a socket available at home, it doesn't matter whether you show up with half a tank or no tank. Yeah, and so here I am sort of regenerating energy coming back down the hill on the other side. Um, you probably noticed before the draw was almost 60 kilowatts going up that hill. It's like a 10% grade. Yep, and propulsion power reduced.
All right. Well, we made it in just over 9 hours and 40 minutes, or just under 9 hours and 40 minutes, I should say. So, I mean, that's I guess, a decent trip speed for this. Pretty close to 50 mile an hour average trip speed. But and as you can see, yeah, the temperatures did drop a little bit. I mean, that's kind of what I anticipated. Plus, there was about a 1,500-foot elevation increase. So, that's basically what's to be expected toward the end. That's why I didn't want to leave with less than a 75%. And then, of course, we're basically low now. So I can go ahead and plug in and, let the little Bolty recharge overnight. All right.